Hello and welcome to Calibre Conversations, our online book festival where we chat to a range of authors in the hope of introducing you to books to add to your reading list and get you enjoying more books in National Year of Reading. My name is Emma and I am really excited to be chatting to Anna Bailey, whose first novel, Tall Bones, was a Sunday Times bestseller and was longlisted for the Theakstons Crime Novel of the Year award and the Goldsboro Glass Bell Award. She has followed up with another captivating novel in the form of Our Last Wild Days, which was described by author Colin Walsh as a sweltering fever dream of a novel brimming with atmosphere, tension and a truly unforgettable cast of characters, which I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with, by the way. So first of all, hello and welcome to you, Anna.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So just to start off, I'd love it to find out a little bit more about where it all began for you. So it'd be really great if we could find out a bit about your background and if you could tell us about your journey to being a published author. So did you have a particular opportunity or experience that was the catalyst for you on this?
I mean, I've always loved telling stories. I used to fill up whole notebooks with handwritten novels when I was a kid. But I also always tried to be realistic about getting published. I grew up around a lot of writers, so I was very aware that it doesn't always work out for everybody, and that like even if you do get published, it can be very hard to make a career out of it. So initially, I tried to get into journalism. That's what I tried to study at university. But then I got married. I got married when I was very young to an American man, and I moved to Texas with him. And unsurprisingly, perhaps it was not a very happy marriage, but I think that unhappiness sort of prompted me to want to turn my life around. And I was sort of thinking, well, what do I have to lose trying to write a novel? And by that point, I was living in Colorado, up in the Rocky Mountains, which is just this most beautiful, dramatic, isolated place. And I knew that I wanted to write about it. And having grown up in a small town myself, having lived in small towns in both the UK and the US, I was really interested in portraying the kind of complicated dynamics of those kind of places. What do people get up to when they're living in those really remote locations? Like, what secrets do they think they can get away with when they think no one's looking? And this was what really inspired my first book, Tall Bones.
And Tall Bones, that's the other thing, isn't it? Because I think you said somewhere that in Gloucestershire, obviously, and in the UK in general, we've got sort of all these monuments and things that we sort of wonder about how they've got there. And that was sort of, America didn't really have all of, or huge amounts of that. And that was sort of where you took inspiration from. Is that right?
Yeah, because I grew up in the West Country, so we've got lots of these gorgeous like stone circles sort of lying around, and I've always really loved those. They're a big sort of part of the landscape of my childhood, and then when I was living in the States, it's the kind of monuments that they have there dating back that far are all of like the Native American kind of culture there. It's not sort of recorded in necessarily the same way or was actively removed by people that came in and colonized the country. So they don't have those kind of very ancient landmarks. And I liked the idea of sort of incorporating one into the story. So the Tall Bones in the first novel is a huge circle of stones in the middle of the wood that unusual things happen there, and that's where the kind of mystery, the big inciting incident of that first novel takes place.
Going on to your latest novel, Our Last Wild Days, which is set in Assumption, Paris in Louisiana. Could you give us a sneak peek of what that story is about at all?
So it's so Our Last Wild Days is a Southern Gothic novel that's centered around a family of alligator hunters in southern Louisiana. Alligator hunting is an incredibly dangerous pursuit that breeds a very macho culture around it. So this family of hunters, the Labasques, they are considered to be quite violent people. They really live on the fringe of their community. So when one of them, the only sister in this very male-dominated family, is found dead, people in their community sort of think that she got what was coming to her, and the only person interested in trying to find out what really happened is this journalist who used to be her best friend when they were children. And they have this huge falling out in their teens, the way that you do when you're a teenage girl, and they never get the chance to repair their friendship. So this is kind of This is kind of like their last chance. This is this journalist's last opportunity to make things right between them, is to find out why her friend died.
One of the talking points I found in the novel was the mention of folklore and like local beliefs and how that feeds into people's fears and anxieties as well. It just struck me, is this an area of interest for you? And was there a reason why you chose the particular mythical creature to appear in the novel that you did? Was it sort of a love, kind of an interest for you as well?
Well, yeah, like I said, I was born and raised in the West Country, to a Welsh family. So I come from a region and a heritage that's very, very big on culture, very big on folk culture, rather. We're all big on culture, but whenever I travel, I think I'm always interested in exploring the folklore of different countries, and southern Louisiana just has such a vibrant mix of cultures. Like you've got folk influences from France and Spain and Haiti. You've got the Native American culture there that's very distinct, and of course all the descendants of people that were enslaved on the plantations, whose folk practices have had a massive influence on Louisianan culture. So when I was living in the South, I was trying to absorb as much of that as possible, just out of sheer interest. But for writing this book, I watched a lot of lectures online to try and like educate myself about how these superstitions play in modern day life in Louisiana. Like, how do people feel about them now? I think ultimately my inclusion of folklore in this story is really supposed to be like a homage to that just wealth of history that they have in southern Louisiana. Just kind of saying from one folk enjoyer to another, like, I really love the way you guys do it, and I wanted to be appreciative of that.
I thought that was fat. I really enjoyed that because I went away and looked up all of those, the ones that you mentioned as well in it. So that was really interesting for me to find out a bit more. So because of that, do you have any superstitions at all?
Actually, kind of no. I mean, like, it's definitely something I was raised with. So there's lots of stuff I do because it's like very ingrained in me. I always salute magpies when I see them, but I'm not a superstitious person. I'm not a religious person. I just have a really big love of folklore, and I don't think you necessarily have to believe in something in order to appreciate it and what it contributes.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it is a must to salute a magpie, though. I have to say that's what it's a definite. Now, another areas of interest that I found while I was reading it was that, as you've mentioned, the Labasses are seasoned alligator hunters in the Louisiana swamps. Did you find out any surprising or informative facts about alligators that you didn't know in your research of that area? Because there's quite some descriptions about certain things about alligators, so I learned things and I just wondered if you, as you went along, did you already know it, or was there things that you discovered that you were surprised about?
Oh yeah, I got really, really into alligators. I'm not an expert, obviously, so I think anything that's in there is worth maybe fact checking again. I try to be as accurate as possible, but one of my favorite things that I learned about alligators is that the mothers will carry their newly hatched babies around in their mouths to keep them safe. So if you see a picture of a big alligator with lots of little gators in her mouth, she's not eating them. It's just mama taking them for a little swim.
And that's amazing, isn't it? Because actually, usually an alligator's mouth is the last place you'd want to be ever. So it's it's nice to know that they're used for that as well. That's really sweet. Now, as you mentioned, you're kind of originally from sort of from Gloucestershire, but both your novels are set in America, where you get a really vivid and convincing sense of place and character. So I know, you said before that you obviously lived out in America for a while. So for your first books, why was it America you chose to set your books in as the settings for your stories?
I feel like it's the landscape that really sort of taught me how to write. So I spent a few years living in Texas and then lived for a little bit in Colorado, but I also traveled a lot in just the South and the Southwest in general. And it's a place unlike any other. It's so different from where I came from. It's so different from where I live now. Just these huge, wide open landscapes that are so sparsely populated, and there's just nature for as far as the eye can see. I was really, just very overwhelmed by it, and I think it touched me in a way that I've never really been able to shake off. So I think it made me think a lot more about settings in a story and how landscapes like that sculpt the characters who live in them, how then, the actions of those characters will be a direct result of where they live and how that shaped them. And I feel like it completely reframed the way that I write. So it's something that I keep coming back to.
And I think that's one of the things I felt when I was reading. If I hadn't have known that you were obviously based from the UK originally, I'd have thought you were American, because you've got the settings, the characters, even the dialogue, so convincingly accurate in that respect that it's like you are there. So yeah, it really comes across. Your passion and your love for America and your experiences and time there have come across too in the books. Now. Just one thing about kind of how you plan ahead, really, and sort of where you sort of see stories, I guess, really. So does having kind of like a writer's vision mean that you might see potential storylines in just everyday situation? Are you someone sort of in a cafe and you think, oh yeah, that would be a good, you'd play sort of that person might be up for a murder or something, that kind of thing? Is there, or you go and visit somewhere and you think, oh, it's a great place to set a scene for somebody living and that kind of thing? Really?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm trying to move away from writing anything that's too similar to my own experiences. Like, I think everything I write is entirely fictional, but I have drawn a lot on my experiences in America, particularly, and I'm quite keen to go in a different direction now. But I think you're always going to be inspired by what's going on around you. I think you're always going to be opening yourself up to what's happening in your everyday life, and that's how you learn more about people, and that's how you write more convincingly, hopefully. So yeah, of course.
And I just wondered if there's something you've learned already about being a published author that you'd wish you'd known beforehand. What if you could go back to your beginning? Is there something that you would sort of tell yourself?
Oh, I mean, a lot of things. I think I do quite like discovering different aspects of publishing along the way. I feel like I'm always learning new things about it. I do. I wish that I'd been a little bit more patient with myself. I feel like I was very, very worried about getting my second novel written really, really fast, and that was all happening during COVID. And I ended up like scrapping certain manuscripts and having to go through several different versions of a second novel, which made me wonder if this was really the job for me, if I couldn't get it done on time and work to my deadline. And I do think actually, my publishers are great. They're really patient, and they just want to turn out the best work possible and the best story possible that I'm happy with. And I would have been nice if I'd really internalized that, instead of sort of thought, no, obviously they need this now, and I'm a terrible writer because I can't turn it in on time. I think it would have been nice if I could be a little bit more patient with myself, but I'll just remember that going forward. So.
I think we could all do that, couldn't we? Actually, in any job that we have, is sort of that's a good advice for budding writers and I think everyone in life. So we are celebrating National Year of Reading here in the UK this year, which is all about trying to address the decline in reading for pleasure amongst children and adults. So as part of that, we're looking to encourage and introduce as many people as possible to different books and authors to inspire a habit of reading for pleasure. So with that in mind, can we ask you what book or story maybe or experience made you a reader or just opened up the world of reading to you?
Well, I think, my ex-husband didn't really like me reading. He came home and found me reading after work. He would take the book out of my hands and tell me to get on with things. And so for me, reading became really like an act of rebellion. And I think that's how I'll always see it going forwards. Like, we're living in this time right now where politicians and corporations really benefit from us being uneducated and uncurious about what's going on around us. I think it is an act of rebellion to stay curious, to stay interested in how the world works and how other people live their lives. And reading is the best way to do that, whether it's a novel or an article or a history book, and I didn't become an avid reader until my 20s, but I did so because it wasn't a given right, and because I was determined not to let like some guy restrict my access to the world. So I think if you have access to books in your life, celebrate that freedom and read them.
Well said. And can I also say that you should never, ever be made to feel guilty about reading in any way, shape or form. It's carve yourself out time to read. It's really important. And it's so very much so brilliant. Now, we are obviously massive champions here of audiobooks because that's the format that our members need to sort of enjoy reading themselves in as well. And, your two books are available in audio format, which is brilliant. Do you just wonder, so in that respect, just wondered whether you listen to audiobooks as part of your reading habits at all anyway? So is that something that you would, intersperse maybe with your print book reading?
Oh, absolutely. I think right now I'm listening almost exclusively to audiobooks. I have ADHD and dyslexia, so I find it quite hard a lot of the time to focus on words on a page, especially if I'm quite tired or stressed. So audiobooks are an absolute lifesaver for me. Any chance I get, I'm listening to an audiobook.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. And with your books, I take it you've listened to your books as well, have you, in audio? Have you heard them yet or not?
I've heard the second one. I still need to listen to the first one. This is really embarrassing. I can't actually get a version of it to listen to. And I was like, I'm not sure I don't want to pay for it. It's my own book. Maybe I should just suck it up and pay for it.
Well, no, you can join us as a member. So you qualify to be our member. You can join us and then you can listen to it. So happy to help. That's no problem. The only reason for asking for that was whether you felt, the one that you had listened to actually, does it give you a different experience of your writing as you're listening? Because it's very different reading a book to hearing it out loud sometimes. You can get much more sometimes from the audio than, you can from the print book and vice versa, obviously. But you pick up some things or you might think, oh, did I write the character like that? That's really, sort of it might make you sort of think a different way about it too. Did you feel that in your...
Absolutely. I think it's Kate Hanford who did the narration for Our Last Wild Days, and she did a really phenomenal job. I to the point where I was able to sort of forget that I was the person that wrote it and could actually enjoy listening to it without worrying about it too much. And she did a really fantastic job. She does all the accents. She does that real Cajun accent really well, which is great. It did really change how I thought about it. Actually, I found with the stuff I've been writing since that I will read it aloud to myself a lot more to sort of get a sense of how would that sound in audio actually. Because now that I have started listening to audio a lot more, it does make me think about the experience for audio listeners now, and wanting the book to be as enjoyable for them as it is for somebody reading it on the page. So I feel like I'm trying to incorporate that into my writing at the moment.
Oh, that's fantastic, because it is a very much if you're putting that into the process, it's going to be easier actually for the people at the other end producing the audio as well, because of the fact that you've thought about that, because there are some things that don't quite transcribe all the time into audio. So the fact that you're thinking about that as well, and the experience of all readers is brilliant.
I think that was something that was really interesting for my short stories. Some of them were dramatized for BBC Radio 4, and obviously the way that I had written them, they had to be sort of reworked for the radio, and just having those conversations with people that were dealing specifically with script and audio really made me rethink how things change from the page to a piece of recorded material. So I think that's really helped a lot on that front.
That's part of your journey as an author as well, isn't it, I suppose? So you're, you're learning all the time in terms of that and the different formats that, you can actually then produce books in for everybody to be able to experience it. So that's really interesting. Thank you. Now, I love this. So you said, I hope this is right anyway. So you said that the ability that good literature has is this ability to make lonely people realise they're not alone. Is that one of the things that reading does for you? And is it also an important motivation for you when you're working on your books?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was a very lonely person when I started writing. I was a closeted lesbian in a marriage to this guy in Trump's America, in Trump's Texas. So I felt very alone, and I don't like to shy away from that in my writing. I feel like I do want to show the reality of that the world can be quite a hard place. It can be a pretty brutal place for some people, but in doing so, I want to show the flip side of that as well, which is that there's there's always a way out. If people recognize themselves in some of my characters, I want them to be able to recognize as well that whatever happy ending those characters might get is also possible for them too.
I love that because I thought that quote was magical for me because I hadn't really, I read as my escapism. So I read all the time. It's and I have done ever since I was little. But I'd never actually thought about that before. And actually, there are many times that I have actually read when I have felt alone and I've all of a sudden felt like I'm in good company. And it is very much so. And I'd never thought of that before, that actually I have read as where there's been instances, particularly when you're growing up through school and things, and you feel very much alone in some situations, and you come home and you find that respite in books, and they become your escapism to another world. The characters that you read become your friends almost. They're the people that take you out of yourselves in that respect. And so I really resonated with that. I thought that was a lovely kind of sort of just something to comment on, really. So what I really want to know now, because I've read your books, so I'm kind of keen to know what's next, because I'm sort of waiting in the wings for what you've got next in store. So I wonder if you would mind, can you share anything else that you're working on? Just a sneak peek, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a short story collection that is coming out in July called Wasteland Girls, which is a collection of stories that all take place also in the States. They're really sort of bound together by the setting of the desert in the southwest of America, and it's sort of about how that very harsh but beautiful landscape shapes people, and the ways in which people sort of on the margins of society are trying to kind of eke out a living out there. It's a little bit spooky in places. Some of them are a little bit horror stories, but mostly it's really my kind of love letter to this landscape that I absolutely love.
Is it harder to write a short story than a novel, or vice versa, or not, or just the same? Is the same process?
I think to me, it's a totally different medium. I think it's like the difference between writing a novel and writing a script. I think I love writing short stories. If I could make a living just writing short stories, I would do that. I think Stephen King said something like, he used to write short stories in order to pay the bills so that he could write a novel. And for me, I feel like it's the other way around. If I could write novels to pay the bills so I could write short stories, then I would be delighted. I just love it. I think it's because you have such a limited amount of space. You have to make every sentence count. You have to make everything meaningful. Everything has to be beautiful. I think it's a way to sort of show off what you can do with writing, and I find that such an exciting challenge. Some of the stories have already been on the radio or up for prizes and things, so it's nice to finally get to put them all together in one spot, and it's a collection that's very, very dear to me. So I think there are plans to record it for audio as well. So hopefully, I would really enjoy listening to that.
Well, excellent. Well, if that's the case, then hopefully we'll be able to get hold of it, and you might be able, if you join, you can listen to it via our service as well. So there you go. Well, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's always wonderful to hear somebody's interpretation of something that you've worked on. To hear them read it, and the way that they bring it to life is just such a wonderful experience.
Oh, fabulous. Well, what a lovely way to end on. Thank you so much. I could talk to you, so much more I could talk to you about, but I want to say just thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, I've devoured Tall Bones and Our Last Wild Days, which I'd badge as absolute compulsive reading. So I'd thoroughly recommend these to people as their next reads. And I really hope we've encouraged our members and listeners to discover your books, if they haven't already yet, that is. If you're a Calibre member, as I've said, you can discover Tall Bones and Our Last Wild Days, and Anna can come and join us as well, and listen to Tall Bones. They're in our audiobook collection. And if not, obviously, if you're not a member of us because you don't qualify for our service, then never fear, because you can head to your local library or bookshop to find them as well. And you can also, if you want to find out more about Anna, then you can find her on her Instagram, which is at Anna Bailey Writes as well. So that just leaves me to say a really big thank you to you, Anna, for joining us today. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.